What's your opinion on AD carries? Do you think they're fine right now with the top 10 highest win rate champions being like mages? Just because mages have a higher win rate than AD carries in bot lane does not mean they're necessarily stronger than AD carries. It might just mean that they beat the meta. Sorry, that came out weird because I'm basically saying, okay, think about it this way. If an entire lane is one champion, let's think about it this way. Let's finish the thought on mages though. Mages in bot lane, to be close to viable down there, probably are going to have higher win rates than AD carries. If we nerfed mages to have like a 50% or lower win rate in bot lane, like the average mage, it probably just wouldn't make them, it wouldn't make them fair, it would make them legitimately bad, is my take on it. Like, we generally just see that mages tend to have higher win rates. Similar to how, as an example, Jhin is probably terrible at 49% win rate. He tends to sit higher. Right? Jinx is probably terrible at 49% win rate. She tends to sit higher. Certain characters, and I think mages tend to fall into this camp, tend to sit on the higher end. Now, there's a big difference between, you know, Ziggs chilling at 52, 53, and Ziggs chilling at 58, right? Of course. Like, it could be that some mages are OP down there right now. But to talk about, like, how win rates affect laning and things like that, and something you need to think about, especially when a lane is very homogenous, which is the case with bot lane. Bot lane is very homogenous, is sometimes when a character is winning in a lane, it might just be that they're like decent against what's meta there. So, and I'll give you the example. Here's a way to think about it. Let's say there's only 2 mid laners in the entire game. Just 2. Yasuo and Yone. And they're perfectly balanced. They both have a 50% win rate. Okay? Perfectly balanced. Wow, we really did it, everybody. We kicked all those obnoxious other champs out of mid lane, so it can finally be brother versus brother every single game. Yasuo and Yone, 50-50, coin flipping every game. 2 champs, okay? Now, imagine we saw that meta with only 2 champions, Yasuo and Yone, 50% win rate, both perfectly balanced against each other. And we said, you know what? We need to shake up the meta. And so we made a character called Sibling HATER. And Sibling HATER counters champions who are brothers. They just get like, you know, plus 80% damage against champions who are brothers. Sibling HATER really knows how to just destroy the Yasuo and Yone meta. And Sibling HATER comes out. My question for you is, let's say Sibling HATER ends up then getting like a 10% play rate and Yasuo and Yone stay at like 45% play rates. Sibling HATER's win rate, what does that character's win rate have to be for them to actually be effective at countering Yasuo and Yone? Do you see what I'm getting at here? If Sibling HATER came out and their win rate was the same as Yasuo and Yone's, then that character is probably not able to do their job because they're just playing against those characters every game and they're not actually beating them any meaningfully thing. And additionally, if you only tuned based off of win rate and Sibling HATER came out and had a higher win rate because they countered Yasuo and Yone, who would we end up nerfing? Again, if we only tuned by win rate. It would be the counter. We'd nerf the counter. And then Yasuo and Yone would then continue to be solidified as the only 2 champions in this imaginary scenario. Right? And so it's, what I'm trying to do here is kind of unpack that when like looking at win rates, there's always more to the story. And one of the things to think about with win rates in regards to when a lane is homogenous and then a character goes into that lane and potentially counters the homogenous thing, that counter's win rate might look higher than it would be than it might be. And if you nerfed it to have the same win rate as everything else there, it could actually be legitimately weak at doing its job. Anyways, in regards to mage's bot lane, yes, if they're down there and they're winning like 56% of their games, that might mean they're overpowered and they need to be nerfed. But I would not consider a mage bot lane having a higher win rate than, say, like a KAYLE or something to indicate that they're necessarily overpowered. What's your plan for KAYLE? Well, I'm on break, so I have no plans for KAYLE. But if I could do something to KAYLE, I would do 2 things. I would do 3 things. This is what I would do to KAYLE if I was going to do something to KAYLE, which I'm not, because I do not work on League of Legends right now. I work on myself. I would give her 5% AP ratio on her auto attacks to make up for the AP ratio lost on Nashor's Tooth. I would lower her level 1 ult cooldown by 20 seconds, and I would make her W single target and boost the AP ratio. Those are the things I would think about doing on KAYLE. I want her to be able to ult more in the early game. I want her to be able to scale better to make up for the loss of DPS on Nashor's Tooth. And I think the W isn't supposed to be a 2-target heal. I think it's supposed to be a 1-target heal, and then it could probably be stronger as the game progresses. It probably still has to be weak in lane, to be clear, but it could probably be stronger as the game progresses. Those are things I would personally think about with KAYLE. Also, I think I over-nerfed the AP ratio on her attack speed. She has an attack speed buff she gets with an AP ratio, and I think I over-nerfed it, and then she kind of got Riot specialed. And so, yeah. But I just don't know if there's room to buff that again. So those are the things I think about with her. But W is insanely strong late game with full AP. It's too much MS. Oh, no, I buffed the heal part of it. W doesn't need any buffs with the move speed, but I think it could use maybe something with the healing. But we can't buff the healing if it's 2 targets. So I just wonder if it wants to be a 1-target spell. I don't know, though. I'd have to test that. That might be terrible. But, you know, I'm always thinking about my regrets with her, and my most recent regret with KAYLE is maybe the W shouldn't be 2 targets. Did you complete the project they had me working on a few months ago? Yeah, it was Swarm. I was the lead designer on Swarm. So if you played Swarm and had a good time with that, that's the project I was working on. Worked on Swarm for a little under a year. And yeah, I was very happy with how the team came together and made something pretty awesome. I'm very happy with the result. I think what we ended up shipping was very, very good, and not just good for a League's game mode, but I'm biased, but I would compare it to other games in the genre and say that it definitely could stand up to some of them, especially like if it had, you know, in the long term, like more content or something. And yeah, and I thought it was very fun and quite cool. So I'm glad with what we ended up with. It was a lot of work though. The reason I'm on break right now, a big reason I'm on break right now, is that I was exhausted after shipping Swarm. Exhausted. Just burning out. So definitely needed to take a break after making that game mode. We really spent our lifeblood getting it out the door. It was a lot on the timeline that we were at. And also, fun fact is that it did really well. Like, I think if you were watching the dev blogs that they posted recently about game modes, Swarm was very successful and did really well, and had a lot of people who tried it out and played it, like in the tens of millions from my understanding, although I don't know exact data. Like it was pretty sweet. Does Tencent's ownership of Riot Games ever inhibit the devs from changing the game in ways they want to? So one thing a lot of people like have as a conspiracy theory is Riot just does stuff because, you know, Tencent tells us to do stuff. But the thing about Tencent as a like company that owns studios and whatnot is Tencent generally has the strategy of they buy, say, like, as an example, game studios because they like believe in what that studio is doing and how they do things. And so Tencent doesn't tend to be a company that comes in and says, okay, we own you now you do things our way. They instead generally let the companies that they have like do their thing because they believe like the reason that the companies are doing well is because they're doing their thing, right? And so there's these conspiracy theories that, like, you know, Tencent like is the controlling hand for everything that goes on, and it's like that doesn't tend to be the case.